So I'll say good morning again and welcome. Happy to be here with all of you and appreciate the chance you've given me to sit with you and to teach. Thank you. So one of the characteristics of this practice, meditation practice, is that it moves towards the direction of becoming whole or becoming integrated. The ancient language uses the kind of words that imply a gathering together. And I interpret that as a unification process. There's a wonderful little saying from a Japanese poem that says, "No part left out." So there's nothing left out. Everything has a place, and everything gathers together and becomes settled here. And so we're not working at cross purposes with ourselves, but we're actually finding a way to, this too gets included. This too we gather together. And it's not the word I'll give for this next factor of awakening, but maybe the word for this meditation session, or the idea that can be in the background for it, is this too. So as we practice mindfulness, whatever happens, there's a spirit, an attitude of this too gets included. And not to keep doing it, not to be involved in those things, but to not fight anything or challenge anything or make anything a problem. And some things, when they've been included, can just recede to the background as we settle ourselves on the breathing or whatever primary object you have for the practice of mindfulness, with the idea that that's the center of gravity, that's the bottom of the hill, the direction the water flows. So everything gathers at the bottom. Everything's gathering around the breathing. And we become unified and whole here. So to take a meditation posture, and the posture itself is the beginning of an expression of wholeness. If we take some care with our posture and with the idea that we're including our body is an important part of this whole process. Some of you might find it useful with the idea that you're inviting your body to participate with the meditation. Or that your body is inviting you to participate in the meditation. And to gently close your eyes. And to take some long, deep breaths. So you really feel your body as you breathe. And this invitation to be with your body, for your body to be with you, can be maybe represented by this deep, gentle breathing in and a little bit longer exhale perhaps than you normally would, just to accentuate the settling in, letting go. Breathing in and breathing out. And then letting your breathing return to normal. In order to begin this process of being inclusive, being whole, what is it that's happening for you in the present moment, in your direct experience, that maybe you wouldn't have occurred to include or you're trying to avoid? And perhaps gently, without being preoccupied or by it, you might say, this too has a place here. This too is part of the whole. And whatever it is that needs to be included. Breathe with it. Breathe through it. Allow there to be a soft, simple recognition. This too is here. And then perhaps it's okay, now that it's recognized, to let it recede a little bit into the background so that this wonderful ability we have to engage our attention now on the breathing in the body, or we enter into the experience of the body breathing. And for a while you exhale, to soften and relax in the body. Tension in the body is a way to be fragmented. And softening, relaxing the shoulders, the face, the belly, our movement towards being whole, to be more inclusive. And then to also, as you exhale, to relax in the mind, whatever tensions and pressures that might be associated with thinking or having a concern. It isn't so much you let go of the concern as it is you relax the pressure or tension associated with it. And in a sense, as we relax, there is maybe an aspect of this too is okay. This too has a place in the whole. And then as if the center of the whole, the center of the integrated whole being that you are, is breathing. And it isn't so much you have to work to focus on breathing, as it is you keep letting go into the breathing, as if breathing is the bottom of the hill in which the water flows. Perhaps as you exhale, letting go of your thoughts and letting go into the body breathing. And whatever takes you away from the breathing, this too is included. It's okay. Just recognize it. And let it that also incline back to your breathing. So that everything leans, inclines to your breathing. this too, an attitude of this too, that lets something relax and settle. The tension or the pressure to be involved or to be preoccupied, or a kind of tension that divides us from ourselves, parts of ourselves from other parts. This too allows a settling, a sense of inclusion. No need for tension. All things are allowed to be here. And all things settle to the center. All things flow to the center of our being, perhaps to the breathing. And the awareness is an awareness that is inclusive, that it itself inclines towards the breathing, while at the same time making room so that everything else can incline to the middle as well. To meditate with the attitude of this too is included. Is not to condone anything or prioritize anything, but rather to allow us to be whole. And in becoming whole, to allow our care, our love, to see things clearly so we can be wise and caring. And as we come to the end of this sitting, this too can include the world around us, the world of our home where we live, the world of our community, the world of the world. This too we make space for in our hearts. This too we make space for in our care. This too is part of the whole. And to be able to be unified with it, be whole with it, gives the possibility for us to have greater love or care for this world of ours. And to bring the meditation practice into the world can be a way of bringing our care and love into the world. To have the presence of mind, the openness of heart, that we're ever ready to have a profound, mature, kind of serious love for this difficult world we have. May it be that this practice that we do allows us to have a heart that's so wide and big and expansive that there's room for all things in it. All things have a chance to fit into the alchemy of love and care and kindness. An alchemy which hopefully can transform all hate and anger and fear. May it be that our practice and our openness and our wholeness is in fact enabling us to be in this world in a way that supports all beings. May all beings know that they're whole and therefore can be at peace. So here we are, our sixth day for the 7 factors of awakening. And the factor today is the factor of samadhi, often translated as concentration. And I think it's important to notice that it's the sixth factor, that it's preceded by practices or states of developing mindfulness, investigation, effort, joy, tranquility. And before that, there's a kind of a understanding that the support for the 7 factors of awakening is our virtue, our good conduct, living by the precepts. And so there's all these conditions that are in place that support the arising, the appearance of samadhi. And why that's important to say is that there's not a few people who associate concentration with the be-all and end-all of meditation. A person's a beginner, they read about meditation, that means I'm supposed to be concentrated. And so then there's a huffing and puffing, a pushing, a tightening, an expectation, a measuring of oneself. Am I there yet? Am I there yet? But rather the samadhi, this concentration that the practice, certainly emphasizes, is partially a byproduct rather than a beginner's practice. It's a byproduct of doing the practice, settling in, being open, being relaxed, being happy, being settled, having a sense of well-being. And so we're kind of like preparing the soil, tilling the soil, fertilizing the soil, so that the seed of samadhi can germinate and arise. And so samadhi, I think of samadhi as a gift more than as something I work for. In fact, the idea that we're working to develop concentration seems a little bit kind of against the grain of what really is happening here and what's supportive and helpful. It's more like we make ourselves a vehicle, a vessel for samadhi to arise than we do the samadhi. But certainly there's a combination of things that we offer and do in practice and the gift that can be allowed to occur. Last time I looked in an English dictionary for the meaning of the word concentration, there were 2 primary meanings. One was a focus of mind, zeroing in on something, I suppose. And the other is that it's a gathering together of things or people. Like a gathering of people in a crowd is a concentration of people, I guess. And I think when people think about samadhi or concentration in meditation, I get the impression that a lot of people think of the first definition of focusing of the mind. And extreme versions of it is a laser focus, just like really pinpoint and really narrowing down and really hooking into something. The other meaning is actually probably more what the meaning is in the ancient Buddhist texts, a gathering together of something. The word samadhi and related words there, sometimes translated as concentration, have the meaning of a gathering together, unifying. Samadhi in one dictionary means to come into harmony with things. And it's easy to see how fragmented we can become. And we can even be in cross purposes to ourselves, cross purposes where we're directing our attention one place and our mind, our system is concerned about something else. I think most people who sit down to meditate will have that experience sooner or later, probably sooner, that we sit down to be present and the mind is thinking about something elsewhere and other times and places. And so we're kind of at cross purposes. The mind has one thing and we're trying to do something else. And sometimes there's many different kind of fragmentations going on at the same time. Our body has a legacy of the experiences of the day or experiences of a lifetime that can be quite strong. and we carry tensions and resistance and pulling back and tensing up and shutting off parts of ourselves. And so all these different parts of us with different emotions that have happened over a lifetime kind of are there also, kind of vying for attention or pulling away from attention and doing things. We can have multiple concerns at the same time going on, and the mind jumps around between them. There could even be kind of multiple emotions happening at the same time. There could be an overall sense of well-being and contentment, but a little something in the back is kind of a little hint maybe of little concern about, did I forget to turn off the stove, or it's a little bit of fear or something, all kinds of things. And so the mind has no chance to settle when it's fragmented because it moves between all these things. And so samadhi is not just the settling of the mind, but the unification, the gathering together of all the different faculties of attention we have, all the different ways that we can be in our body, our mind, our emotions, our hearts, all kind of come in harmony for the same purpose, for the same intention. And and that happens through a simplification. It becomes simpler and simpler around one thing. So classically it might be the breathing. And becoming simple, just simple with the breath. Some people might protest, it's just being too simplistic, but it's a phenomenal process very sophisticated process, I would say, of bringing all the different aspects we have into harmony, into being settled together. And the image that I have for this is that of maybe the ground has been parched for a long time, lack of rain. The mountainside is dry, the creek beds are dry. And then it starts to rain, and the water starts to flow down the hillside and flows into the creeks, into the streams, into the rivers. And there's a gathering together of all the water. And by the time all the waters come into a big river, it all has a kind of one-pointedness flowing in the stream of the river, the current of the river. It's just here, but it's also all these different things that become unified, gathered together. And the image of the water on the slope is the idea of a natural process. That there is a natural gravitational pull in the human being towards samadhi if we get out of the way. I think that the deep-seated kind of feeling of wholeness, contentment, kind of being everything in harmony, partly because to not do that is to be fragmented. To not do that is to be tense, to be caught up in things, to be clinging to things or resisting things. All forces which are in and of themselves eventually feels quite dissatisfying. And it's for some people it's clearly very nourishing and settling to really be absorbed in an activity and let everything else fall away. Like doing a craft or reading a book or something like that. So samadhi, concentration, is kind of a gift that comes when we've laid the foundation for it to arise. And this idea of this too is part of the foundation, to learn how not to be in conflict with anything, not to be opposed to anything, not to make anything into a problem. We add layers and layers of problem on top of the simplicity of what's actually happening. And so to kind of relax the outer layers of problem-making mind, of just kind of being with what is, trusting ourselves, being here, is an important part of this laying the foundation for developing concentration. There are two different kind of practices associated with concentration that support it. And it's helpful to realize there's these two, because some people only think there's one, or only focus on one rather than the other. And the first is the practice of returning the attention to the object of attention. So in meditation, if the object of attention is the breathing, of course the mind will wander away from time to time, or much of the time, sometimes. And the practice is to return, to redirect the attention apply the attention back on the breathing. Return, and or a different language. Sometimes language is so important. These metaphors we use is to allow the breathing to return to attention. Allow the breathing to come back into awareness. So rather than we going to it, it returns to us. That sometimes lets the mind be quieter and less active, just opening, okay, back to the breath, let the breath return. But it has to do with starting over, beginning again. And a lot of meditation it's a lot to do about starting over. And one of the great skills in meditation is to learn the art of starting again, starting over, as if it's the first time, and to do it in a way that's not discouraged, not annoyed, not irritated, not then pouncing back, being forceful, but the very return, the very beginning again feels satisfying. It feels like, oh, this is nice to start again. And the mind opens, things relax, it's kind of a easeful thing. Okay, let's start again. The second activity is then sustaining the attention, hanging in there with what goes on. And so that is, so kind of really hanging in there and being with the experience, so that attention stays in the present moment with what we're focusing on. And the reason I emphasize these two is some people are very good at the first. They come back, they start again, but then they kind of become complacent or kind of don't do much anymore. They kind of, there they are, and the mind wanders off very easily. And but the two are needed together, and they're slightly different functions of the mind, activities of the mind. Starting again, and then hanging with it, lingering with it, kind of sustaining the attention over time. And there too, there's an art towards having the sustaining be enjoyable and nice. And one way to support that is don't have a high standard or high expectation of how long you're going to be able to sustain the attention. Just do it for as long as you can. And maybe by keep doing it, okay, here I am. Let's stay with this experience of breathing. Let's do a couple of breaths. And slowly over time, we're able to sustain it longer, rest with the experience longer, be attentive and connected. Rather than, and it's this massage of wandering off, starting again, sustaining the attention. Wandering off, coming back, starting again, sustaining the attention. Being there, opening to the experience. Think of it as a massage. You're massaging the mind, the heart, so it gets softer and easier and more relaxed, and less caught up in its concerns, less momentum of clinging and wanting and doing. And it begins to rest and relax and settle and settle. And the combination of these two, of starting again and then sustaining the attention, the word that I like for this factor of awakening of concentration, is steady. And you might say to yourself the word, you come back, be here with the breath, be whatever you're going to be with, and just say steady. Let yourself be steady. Steady in body, steady in this posture. Steady in the mind, steady in attention, steady in the heart, just steady. Keep it steady. Keep it steady. And then the mind wanders off. Try to stay steady and to return. Start again. And steady. Kind of like holding the ship steady. So, here, what, this, yes, and relax. What did and then now steady. So thank you so much, and we'll finish the 7 factors of awakening tomorrow morning.